What if the first words you speak every morning quietly decide the direction of your entire life? Stay with me until the end. The final lessons will truly change your perspective. Your morning is not just a moment in time. It is a declaration of who you are choosing to become before the world gets a chance to tell you who you should be. And most people never realize this because they wake up already apologizing to life, already negotiating with fear, already surrendering their power before their feet even touch the ground. They wake up, and the first thing they do is check a screen, absorb someone else's urgency, someone else's success, someone else's expectations, and without knowing it, they let the day claim them instead of claiming the day themselves. But here is the truth I have learned. Through moments of doubt and moments of deep clarity, the morning listens to you. It listens to your first breath, your first thought, your first emotion. Just like a seed listens to the soil it's planted in, your day listens to the mindset you plant at dawn. When you wake up and think, I'm tired, I'm behind, I don't know if I'm enough, the day takes that as instruction. It doesn't judge you, it simply obeys. And when you wake up and say, even quietly, even imperfectly, I'm still here, I'm willing, I'm open to becoming, something shifts. You may not feel powerful in that moment, but power doesn't always announce itself with confidence. Sometimes it enters like a whisper that says, keep going. I've seen mornings where everything felt uncertain, where the path ahead was foggy, where success felt like a distant idea meant for other people, not me. And yet I learned that those mornings were not failures, they were invitations. Invitations to speak life into myself before the world spoke doubt into me. Because your morning words are not motivation, they are programming. They shape the lens through which you interpret every conversation, every obstacle, every opportunity. Think of it like tuning an instrument before a performance. If you start the day out of tune, everything you play feels off, no matter how talented you are. And talent alone will never save you if your inner dialogue is working against you. This is why some people work harder but feel emptier, achieve more but feel disconnected, because they never align their mornings with their meaning. They let urgency replace intention. They let fear replace faith. And slowly, silently, their days became reactive instead of creative. But the moment you realize that waking up is not an accident, that opening your eyes is already proof that life is still invested in you, your perspective begins to soften. You begin to understand that success doesn't begin when you win. It begins when you decide to show up consciously. A morning declaration doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It can be as simple as sitting still for a breath and reminding yourself, I don't need to rush my worth. I don't need to prove my existence. I will move with purpose today. That single thought can anchor you when the day tries to pull you apart. It's like placing a compass inside your chest. No matter how chaotic the terrain becomes, you know which direction you're meant to walk. And here's the deeper spiritual truth that changed everything for me. The universe responds less to what you want and more to what you embody. When your mornings are filled with resentment, comparison, or self-criticism, you carry that frequency forward and the world mirrors it back. But when your mornings are rooted in intention, even if your life isn't perfect yet, you begin to move differently. You listen better. You speak with more clarity. You choose with more courage. Suddenly, opportunities don't feel like miracles, they feel like alignment. This is why two people can wake up on the same day, face similar challenges, and have completely different outcomes. One is fighting the day, the other is partnering with it. One is asking, why is this happening to me? The other is asking, what is this teaching me? And the difference begins in those first few minutes when no one is watching. That is where your real power lives. Not on stages, not in titles, not in applause, but in the quiet agreement you make with yourself before the world interrupts. If you've ever felt like you, capable of more, but don't know why it hasn't arrived yet, this is not meant to shame you, it's meant to awaken you. Because nothing is wrong with you. You may just be starting your days disconnected from your direction. And the beautiful thing about mornings is that they forgive yesterday completely. They don't care about your mistakes. They don't remember your failures. Every sunrise is a clean page, but only if you choose to write on it intentionally. If you don't, the world will write for you, and it won't always be gentle. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine waking up tomorrow, and instead of rushing, you pause, you place a hand on your chest, you breathe, and you say, today I show up with courage. Today I honor my growth. Today I trust that my steps matter, even if I can't see the destination yet. That is not fantasy, that is discipline of the soul. And over time, those mornings compound. Just like interest in a bank account, small conscious declarations accumulate into unshakable self-belief. This is how confidence is built quietly. This is how resilience is born without drama. This is how success becomes inevitable rather than forced. And if this is resonating with you, I promise you this is only the beginning. The lessons ahead are even more powerful, more confronting, and more transformative than this first truth. Stay until the final points, because if you think mornings alone can change your life, wait until you understand what awareness, discipline, attitude, purpose, and faith can do when they work together. Don't leave now, because what's coming next might be the missing piece you've been searching for, and missing it would be a regret you don't need to carry. Confidence is often misunderstood, especially in a world that rewards volume over depth, speed over stillness, and performance over presence. But real confidence, the kind that sustains you when no one is clapping, is not loud, it is rooted. And I learned this not in moments of praise, but in moments of profound uncertainty. When I had every reason to doubt myself, and yet discovered that the strongest people in the room were rarely the ones speaking the most. They were the ones who were deeply anchored within themselves. Confidence does not arrive fully formed, and it certainly doesn't come from pretending you're fearless. True confidence is born when you stop running from your fear and start listening to what it's trying to teach you. Think about a tree in a storm. The tallest branches may sway wildly, but what keeps the tree standing is not what you see above ground, it's the depth of its roots. In the same way, confidence that depends on external validation will always feel fragile, because the moment approval disappears, so does your sense of self. But when your confidence is rooted in self-trust, in lived experience, in the quiet knowledge that you can survive discomfort and grow through uncertainty, it becomes unshakable. I've seen this in my own life. Moments when I walked into rooms where I didn't feel like I belonged, where my accent, my background, my story felt different. And yet I realized that belonging doesn't come from fitting in. It comes from standing firmly in who you are without apology. That kind of confidence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It's felt in the way you listen without defensiveness, the way you speak without rushing, the way you hold your ground without needing to dominate. And here's the spiritual truth. Many people overlook confidence is not self-centered, it is self-aware. It grows when you accept your imperfections without turning them into limitations. When you stop exhausting yourself trying to be someone else and redirect that energy toward becoming more fully yourself, something extraordinary happens. Your nervous system calms, your decisions become clearer, and your presence becomes magnetic. People often ask, how do I become more confident? When the deeper question is, how do I stop abandoning myself? Because every time you silence your intuition to please others, every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no, you chip away at your inner foundation. And confidence cannot survive on fractured ground. It requires integrity with yourself. That's why the mornings matter so deeply. Not just what you say, but what you commit to honoring within yourself throughout the day. Confidence is built when your actions align with your values, even in small ways, especially when no one is watching. It's built when you keep promises to yourself, when you allow yourself to learn instead of pretending to know, When you accept that growth will feel awkward before it feels powerful. And let me tell you something important. Confident people are not immune to doubt. They've simply learned not to let doubt drive. Doubt can sit in the back seat, but confidence keeps its hands on the wheel. This is why rooted confidence feels calm rather than aggressive. It doesn't need to compete because it understands that comparison is the fastest way to disconnect from your own path. When you are rooted, someone else's success doesn't threaten you. It inspires you or passes you by without shaking your worth. And that rootedness doesn't come from achievements alone, it comes from spiritual alignment, from knowing that your value is not transactional. You are not worthy because you succeed more sustainably because you know you are worthy. That distinction changes everything. I've watched people chase confidence through accolades, through attention, through perfection and still feel hollow, because confidence built on outcomes will always feel temporary. But confidence built on self-acceptance and purpose becomes a home you can return to, no matter where life takes you. It allows you to fail without collapsing, to be criticized without shrinking, to evolve without losing yourself. And this is where confidence becomes service. Because when you are rooted, you give others permission to be grounded too. You stop projecting insecurity. You stop needing control. You start creating space. Space for collaboration, space for growth, space for truth. If this is resonating, stay with me, because the lessons ahead go even deeper, and missing the final points would mean missing the very tools that help confidence survive real-world pressure. We often think confidence is something you show the world, but it is actually something you cultivate in private, in silence, in reflection, in the moments when you choose compassion over self-judgment. And yes, it takes courage to be rooted in a world that rewards noise. It takes strength to move slowly when everything is telling you to rush. But that is where your power lives, in groundedness, in awareness, in the decision to build a life that feels true rather than one that simply looks impressive. Confidence is not about being certain of outcomes. It's about being at peace with effort. It's about trusting that even if you don't have all the answers yet, you are capable of learning them. And that trust grows when you stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start affirming, "I am present, I am growing, I am committed." That shift is subtle, but it is transformative. Don't leave now, because what comes next will challenge how you see your thoughts, your habits, and your responsibility to your own evolution. The lessons ahead are even more powerful, more illuminating, and more necessary for anyone who wants no just success, but fulfillment. Stay until the final points, because understanding confidence is only the beginning. Awareness, discipline, gratitude, purpose, and faith are waiting to complete the journey. And once you see how they connect, you'll realize why this moment, right now, is not random at all. Awareness is the moment your life stops happening to you and starts unfolding with you, and yet so many people avoid it because awareness is not always comfortable. It asks you to look at yourself without filters, without excuses, without the familiar stories you've used to survive. But I've learned that the very thing we resist is often the doorway to the freedom we've been praying for. Awareness is not about judgment, it's about honesty. It's that quiet pause when you notice how quickly your mind jumps to fear, how easily you doubt yourself, how often you replay the same emotional patterns without questioning where they came from. Most people don't struggle because they're incapable. They struggle because they're unconscious. They move through life on autopilot, repeating habits they never chose, reacting from wounds they never examined, and then wondering why nothing changes. Awareness interrupts that cycle. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The furniture hasn't moved, but now you stop bumping into the same corners. I remember moments in my own life when I realized that my exhaustion wasn't from doing too much, but from thinking the same limiting thought. HTs over and over again. From carrying beliefs that no longer fit the woman I was becoming. Awareness showed me that I wasn't tired of the work. I was tired of resisting growth. And here's the spiritual truth most people miss. Awareness doesn't demand perfection, it invites compassion. The moment you notice a pattern without shaming yourself for it, you reclaim power. You begin to see that thoughts are not commands, emotions are not identities, and past experiences are not life sentences. They are information. And when information meets consciousness, choice becomes possible. This is why awareness is the beginning of freedom. Because you cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. And you cannot heal what you keep hiding from yourself. Think about how often we say, "That's just how I am," without realizing we're describing a learned behavior, not a destiny. Awareness gently asks, "Is this still serving you?" And sometimes the answer is no, and that's not failure, that's evolution. Awareness teaches you to observe your reactions instead of being controlled by them. When something triggers you and instead of reacting immediately, you pause and ask, "Why did this affect me so deeply?" You step into a higher level of self-leadership. That pause is powerful. It's the space where wisdom lives. It's the breath between stimulus and response. And within that breath lies your freedom. I've learned that awareness often arrives disguised as discomfort. That uneasy feeling when something no longer aligns. That quiet restlessness that says, "There is more to you than this." And many people numb that feeling with distraction, with busyness, with noise, because awareness asks you to slow down and listen. But when you listen, truly listen, you start to hear your intuition again. You start to recognize when you're betraying yourself for approval, when you're shrinking to stay comfortable, when you're choosing familiarity over growth. Awareness doesn't judge you for these moments, it simply illuminates them. And illumination is not exposure, it's empowerment. Once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend, but you also no longer feel lost. This is where responsibility enters, not as blame, but as ownership. Responsibility says, "I may not have chosen everything that happened to me, but I can choose how I respond now." That realization is liberating. It shifts you from victimhood to authorship. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" And that question alone changes the quality of your life. Awareness also deepens your compassion for yourself and for others. When you understand your own triggers, you stop personalizing everything. You realize that everyone is carrying something unseen. Everyone is navigating their own internal storms. Awareness softens your need to control and strengthens your capacity to understand. And here's something profoundly important. Awareness is not a one-time awakening. It's a daily practice. You don't become conscious once and stay that way forever. You choose it again and again. In conversations, in decisions, in moments of temptation and fear. Each time you choose awareness, you choose growth. Each time you avoid it, life repeats the lesson, often louder. This is why people feel stuck. Not because life is against them, but because they haven't yet learned what life is trying to show them. Awareness is the bridge between where you are and who you're becoming. It reveals the gap not to shame you, but to guide you. And yes, it can feel overwhelming at first because once you see clearly, you can't unsee. But clarity is kindness, even when it's uncomfortable. It frees you from unconscious self-sabotage. It helps you understand why discipline feels hard, why confidence wavers, why gratitude sometimes feels forced. Awareness connects all the lessons together. It is the thread that makes growth intentional instead of accidental. If this is resonating, stay with me. Because the lessons ahead build directly on this truth, and missing the final points would mean missing how awareness transforms into action, resilience, and faith. Don't leave now, because what comes next will show you how awareness becomes strength instead of self-criticism, how it evolves into discipline without rigidity, gratitude without denial, purpose without pressure. Awareness is not the end of the journey, it's the doorway. And once you walk through it, you begin to live consciously, choosing yourself, not from ego, but from alignment. That is where real freedom begins. Discipline is often misunderstood as rigidity, as deprivation, as a harsh voice that tells you to do more, be more, push harder. But the deepest truth I've learned is that discipline, real discipline, is actually an act of love. It is self-respect made visible through action. It is the way you tell yourself, day after day, you matter enough for me to show up, even when it's uncomfortable. Discipline is not about forcing yourself into a life that doesn't fit. It's about committing to the life you know, deep down, you're meant to grow into. Think of discipline not as a cage, but as a bridge. On one side is your intention, your vision, your potential. On the other side is the life you're living right now. Discipline is what allows you to cross that distance one steady step at a time. Even when motivation fades, even when emotions fluctuate, even when no one is watching. I've learned that motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes like weather. But discipline is a climate. It creates an environment where growth becomes inevitable. There were days in my own journey when I didn't feel inspired, when self-doubt was loud, when the easier choice would have been to retreat, to postpone, to wait for a better moment. But discipline whispered something stronger than motivation ever could. Do it anyway. Honor your commitment. And every time I listened to that whisper, something inside me strengthened. Not overnight, not dramatically, but quietly, steadily, like a muscle being trained through repetition. This is how self-trust is built. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence that you can be relied upon. And when you trust yourself, confidence stops feeling fragile. Discipline, in this way, is not about control. It's about consistency. It's about choosing long-term alignment over short-term comfort. And that choice is deeply spiritual, because it requires faith in a future you cannot fully see yet. Discipline asks you to believe that the effort you make today will matter tomorrow, even if there is no immediate reward. That kind of faith transforms work into devotion. Your routines become rituals, your habits become anchors, and suddenly life doesn't feel so chaotic, because you have created structure where your energy can flow with purpose, instead of being scattered by impulse. Many people resist discipline because they associate it with punishment, often rooted in experiences where discipline was imposed rather than chosen. But chosen discipline is empowering. It is the moment you reclaim agency over your time, your focus, your energy. It's waking up and deciding that your dreams deserve more than leftover attention. It's saying no to distractions, not because they're wrong, but because your direction matters more. Discipline teaches you to delay gratification without denying joy. It helps you understand that ease earned through effort feels different from ease sought through avoidance. And here's something important. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means recommitment. It means returning to your path every time you drift, without self-punishment, without shame. Shame weakens discipline. Compassion strengthens it. When you treat yourself with respect, you stop needing external pressure to move forward. You move because it feels aligned, because it feels honest. And discipline also brings clarity. When your actions are consistent, your mind becomes calmer. Decision fatigue fades. You no longer negotiate with yourself endlessly about what you should do, because you've already decided who you are becoming. Discipline removes the noise of indecision. It creates space for creativity, for presence, for gratitude. And in that space, life begins to respond differently to you. Opportunities feel less chaotic. Challenges feel more manageable. You begin to realize that discipline is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters repeatedly. If this is resonating, stay with me, because the lessons ahead deepen this truth even further, showing you how discipline connects to gratitude, purpose, and faith in ways that are quietly life-changing. Don't leave now, because the final points reveal why discipline alone is not enough, and how, when combined with awareness and intention, it becomes a sacred practice rather than a struggle. Discipline is the invisible architecture of a meaningful life. You don't see it in the highlights, but you feel it in the stability, the resilience, the quiet confidence that says, I can handle what comes next. And that confidence doesn't shout, it stands. It stands on the foundation of every small, consistent choice you made, when it would have been easier not to. Gratitude is often spoken about softly, almost politely, as if it's a gentle afterthought to success. But in truth, gratitude is one of the most powerful forces you will ever learn to live with, because it doesn't just change what you have, it changes who you are while you are becoming. I learned this slowly, not in moments of abundance, but in moments where life felt unfinished, uncertain, and imperfect, because that's where gratitude reveals its real strength. Gratitude is not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It's recognizing that even in the middle of what's incomplete, something sacred is still present. Many people believe they will be grateful once they achieve more, earn more, become more, but gratitude doesn't wait for success. It creates the emotional capacity to hold success without losing yourself. Without gratitude, achievement feels hollow, like reaching the top of a mountain, only to realize you're too exhausted to enjoy the view. Gratitude grounds you. It reminds you that you are already standing on something meaningful, even as you climb. Think about how easily the human mind adapts. What once felt like a miracle quickly becomes normal, expected, and then insufficient. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It slows you down just enough to say, this matters, this moment matters. And when you learn to do that, life stops feeling like a constant chase and starts feeling like a conversation. I've seen people who had everything on paper and nothing in their spirit because they were always focused on the next goal, the next validation, the next proof of worth. And I've seen people with very little radiate peace because they were deeply connected to what they already had. Gratitude doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you stop starving emotionally while you strive. It's the difference between ambition fueled by emptiness and ambition guided by wholeness. Spiritually, gratitude is an act of humility. It acknowledges that you did not do everything alone, that your breath, your resilience, your opportunities were not guaranteed. And that awareness changes how you treat people, how you handle success, how you respond to setbacks. When you are grateful, entitlement dissolves. You stop asking, why isn't this enough? And start asking, how can I honor what I've been given? That shift alone transforms relationships because gratitude makes you present. It allows you to truly see others instead of using them as stepping stones in your journey. Gratitude also has a quiet way of expanding your inner capacity. When you appreciate what's already in your life, you create emotional space for more without desperation. Desperation repels growth, gratitude attracts it. Not in a mystical, wishful way, but in a grounded, psychological, spiritual way. Because a grateful mind is more open, more creative, more resilient. It notices opportunities instead of obsessing over lack. It interprets challenges as teachers rather than punishments. And this is important. Gratitude does not deny pain. You can be grateful and still grieve. You can be thankful and still want more. Gratitude simply says, I refuse to let bitterness define my story. I've learned that gratitude is often hardest right before a breakthrough, because that's when impatience is loudest. That's when you're tempted to overlook how far you've come because you're fixated on how far you still have to go. But if you pause, truly pause, you'll see that the person you are today once existed only as a hope, a prayer, a distant version of yourself. Gratitude honors that journey. It builds continuity between who you were and who you're becoming. And it protects you from the dangerous belief that your life will only begin once you arrive somewhere else. Life is happening now. Your growth is happening now. Gratitude keeps you awake to that truth. It also deepens your faith, because when you practice gratitude consistently, you begin to trust that even what you don't yet understand may be serving a purpose. Gratitude teaches patience without passivity. It says, I will keep moving forward, but I will not poison the present by resenting it. That is emotional maturity. That is spiritual strength. And when gratitude becomes a daily practice, not a reaction, but a ritual, something extraordinary happens. You stop measuring your life solely by outcomes and start measuring it by alignment, by peace, by meaning, by the quality of your presence. If this is resonating, stay with me, because the lessons ahead build on this foundation in ways that are even more powerful. And missing the final points would mean missing how gratitude transforms into purpose and faith. Don't leave now, because what comes next will show you how gratitude fuels resilience, how it sharpens discipline, and how it softens ambition into something sustainable and soulful. Gratitude is not the end of the journey. It is the nourishment that allows the journey to continue without burning you out. It reminds you that success is not just about reaching higher, but about staying connected while you rise. Purpose is what remains when the noise fades, when the applause quiets, when the pressure loosens its grip and you're left alone with yourself, asking the only question that truly matters: why am I doing all of this? Purpose is not a job title, not a milestone, not a role you perform for the world. It is an inner compass, a steady pull that keeps guiding you forward, even when motivation disappears and results are delayed. I've learned that pressure is loud, impatient, demanding. It tells you to hurry, to compare, to prove, to perform. Purpose, on the other hand, speaks softly but persists. Gently. It doesn't rush you. It anchors you. And the difference between a life driven by pressure and a life guided by purpose is the difference between burning out and burning bright. Pressure asks for speed. Purpose asks for meaning. Pressure asks, how fast can you get there? Purpose asks, why does this matter to you? And when you don't know your why, pressure will always win. You'll push yourself in directions that don't feel right, chase goals that don't nourish you, and call it ambition while your spirit quietly empties. I've seen this happen so often. People achieving everything they thought they wanted, only to feel disconnected, restless, strangely unsatisfied, not because success is wrong, but because success without purpose feels like motion without direction. You're moving, but you don't know where you're going. Purpose gives context to effort. It transforms struggle into something meaningful. When you know why you're doing something, hardship doesn't disappear, but it stops feeling pointless. It becomes part of a larger story you're consciously writing. Purpose doesn't eliminate fear, but it makes fear negotiable. You're willing to walk through uncertainty because you trust what's calling you forward. Spiritually, purpose is alignment. It's the moment your actions begin to reflect your values, when your outer life starts to mirror your inner truth. And alignment is powerful. It reduces internal conflict. You stop fighting yourself. You stop forcing paths that require you to betray who you are. Purpose simplifies decisions. When something doesn't align, you feel it immediately, not as drama, but as resistance in the body, heaviness in the heart. And when something does align, even if it's difficult, there's a sense of rightness, a quiet clarity that says, this is worth my energy. Purpose also protects you from the dangerous illusion that your worth is tied to constant productivity. When pressure is your driver, rest feels like guilt. Stillness feels like failure. But when purpose is your guide, rest becomes part of the process. You understand that you are not here to be consumed by your goals. You are here to live fully while pursuing them. Purpose gives you permission to move at a human pace in a world that glorifies exhaustion. And here's something important. Purpose is not something you find once and never question again. It evolves as you evolve. What called to you at 18 may not call to you at 35, and that doesn't mean you were wrong, it means you grew. Purpose requires listening. It asks you to check in with yourself honestly, to notice when your energy is draining instead of expanding, when your days feel heavy instead of meaningful. Many people ignore these signals because they're afraid of disappointing others, afraid of starting over, afraid of letting go of identities they've outgrown. But living without purpose costs far more than changing direction ever will. Purpose doesn't demand perfection, it demands sincerity. It asks you to show up authentically, to let your experiences, even the painful ones, shape what you contribute to the world. Your struggles are not detours, they are often the source of your purpose. What you've endured, what you've healed from, what you deeply care about, these are clues. Purpose is often born at the intersection of pain and compassion. When you realize that what you've survived can help someone else, your life begins to feel connected to something larger than your own success. And that connection changes how you experience pressure. Pressure shrinks when purpose expands. Deadlines stop feeling like threats and start feeling like opportunities to serve something meaningful. Failure stops feeling like an identity and becomes feedback. Criticism loses its sting because you're no longer performing for approval, you're acting from conviction. Purpose gives you resilience. It gives you a reason to stand back up when quitting feels tempting. It reminds you that even slow progress is still progress when it's aligned. And if you're feeling lost right now, unsure of your purpose, let me tell you this gently. Not knowing yet doesn't mean you don't have one. It may simply mean you're in a listening season. Purpose often reveals itself gradually, through curiosity, through service, through paying attention to what makes you feel most alive and most useful at the same time. Don't rush it. Pressure will try to rush you. Purpose will wait for you to be ready. If this is resonating, stay with me. Because the final lesson brings everything together in a way that is deeply grounding and transformative. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. And you'll regret missing how purpose ultimately connects to faith. Not blind faith, but the kind that steadies you when the path ahead is unclear. Don't leave now, because what comes next will show you how to trust the journey even when outcomes are uncertain. Purpose is not the destination. It is the reason you keep walking when the road gets difficult. And when you live from purpose instead of pressure, success stops feeling heavy and starts feeling honest. Here is the timeless closing truth, grounded, faith-driven, and meant to move the listener into action. There comes a moment in every life when motivation is no longer enough, when discipline alone cannot carry you, when purpose feels heavy and the only thing that remains is faith. Not the kind that demands certainty, but the kind that chooses trust even in the unknown. Faith is what steadies you when outcomes are unclear, when timelines stretch, when prayers feel unanswered. It is the quiet knowing that your life is not random, that every lesson you've walked through has been shaping you for something meaningful, even when you couldn't see it yet. When you place God, or your highest inner values, at the center of your life, everything else begins to reorganize itself. Your fears lose authority, your setbacks lose their sting, and your journey gains direction. Success stops being something you chase and becomes something you align with. So don't wait for the perfect moment to begin. Start today. Start by choosing awareness over autopilot, discipline over excuses, gratitude over resentment, purpose over pressure, and faith over fear. Carry this awareness forward into your mornings, your conversations, your decisions. Share it with someone who feels lost or tired or unsure, because light multiplies when it's passed on. Apply these lessons now, not someday, because waiting doesn't protect you, it only delays the transformation already calling your name. And remember this, when faith becomes your foundation, your life stops asking for permission to grow. It simply does.